Coming up on Locked On Angels, we've got 3 names of 3 guys who could be the next Angel manager. We've got 2 names of 2 guys who could be our next hitting and pitching coach. And we've got 2 names of 2 guys that we're watching closely this weekend. And we're going to give it all to you in less than 30 minutes. You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can share the pod with your friends by hitting that share button. You can rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified on YouTube every time a new episode drops. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Hey, thank you for joining us for this edition of Locked On Angels. You've got the Frisch Brothers, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We are Super, we are Halo, and we are brothers, and we're glad that you decided to join us for this. Hey, Mike, we have a couple of questions, as you mentioned, for this episode. Who's going to be the next manager? Who is going to be the hitting and pitching coach? And then, of course, the last question, who are we watching this weekend? Let's start with the managerial conversation. As we all know, Joe Maddon was let go earlier this season. Phil Nevin, who was our third base coach, has taken over in the interim, and we imagine that he will remain an interim. I know that he wants a managerial job. However, I don't think he's quite the right fit. Seemed like the best choice at the time just because he is somebody who has had minor league coaching and managerial experience. But at this point, I think that we've seen enough. The never-ending story will eventually come to an end, and we'll find ourselves another manager, Mike. So what do we have in store for our listeners? Who are our potential candidates? Let's go back and forth on this one.
Okay, so we're going to talk about candidates that are outside of the organization, because I think that there are some inside of the organization, but that's a whole nother segment. So we're going to talk about those outside of the organization. And I want to start with Joe Espada. He is a bench coach for Dusty Baker and the Houston Astros. That just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Does he have sticky fingers? Is he clean? Is he not?
I don't know. He said he's going to bring a lot of technology with him if we actually hire him as manager. I don't know what that means. No, Joe is 46, and that makes him a good age for a manager because he's really getting started, right? And I think that this could be a good move for the Angels. He's older than the players, but he's young enough to potentially stick around for a long time. Think Mike Scioscia and his 19
years, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And Joe is well respected around the league. Not only would the Angels be able to land what I would consider a great young managerial candidate, but I think that he would be able to take away him getting hired by the Angels. It would take away somebody that would replace Dusty Baker with the Astros, and anything that we can do to hurt the Astros would be fan-flippin-tastic, right? I really don't hate them, but it's just fun to talk about it, right?
Right. How many years do you think Dusty's going to be around for the Astros?
That's a good question. I think that Dusty's probably got maybe 2 years. If they win this year, this team is just good. The Astros team is actually really good. And so if I'm Dusty, I'm probably going to stay for at least 2 more years if I don't win the World Series, because I think that this is the best opportunity he has. And with Espada on his bench, I think he's got a great group of people around him. And the only thing that's really missing from Espada's resume is a managerial job. He's worked as a hitting coach. He's been a third base coach, and he's been a special assistant to the general manager with the New York Yankees, which I think is actually a really great thing for a new manager coming to Anaheim, because he knows what the general manager is looking for. He knows what the general manager wants to accomplish. And I think he's going to have some empathy for Perry Manassian and what Perry has to do as the general manager. And so with that knowledge, I think that Joe Espada could potentially be a great fit for the Angels in 2023.
I like that suggestion. That's a great option. Let me tell you about Walt Weiss, who is one that I think is a great selection. He's currently the Atlanta Braves bench coach. Now, he did manage the Rockies from 2013 to 2016, and it wasn't great, not great results. However, he doesn't really seem to get the blame in that situation. That's more of a front office issue, as we've seen with them trading Arenado and not trading Trevor Story at the deadline.
If you ever listen to Locked On Rockies, you're going to hear the truth from our friends over there because they are so frustrated. The Rockies were the only team that didn't make a trade at the trade deadline, and we heard all about it from our friends at Locked On Rockies. So just for fun, you should go back and listen to that.
Weiss and his coaching helped the Braves get to the World Series, obviously, in 2021, and that helped put him on the map as a managerial candidate once again. And while he has been focusing on helping the Braves turn things around again this year and still remain in contention, he could be a nice long-term solution for the Angels. And because he's managed before, he is less of a risk than somebody like Joe Espada. They have similar job experience, but he could also stick around for at least a decade if Artie doesn't, flip a table again like he tends to do with his managers and his GMs and things like that. Another thing that I like is the Perry Minasian connection, because they were in the Braves organization around the same time. So before Perry came over, obviously he was with the Braves, and now he's our GM. So I feel like anytime you can get somebody from the internal office of the Braves, that's probably a good decision. So Walt Weiss is a great choice. Obviously, you and I have our other favorites, but in terms of coming from outside the organization or somebody who's not really a former Halo like Darren Erstad, I think that would be our number one at the end of the day. But if we're going to look at candidates outside of the organization and not former players, I think Walt Weiss is a good option. Tell me about the next one.
Well, this one was actually suggested by one of our Locked On Angel listeners, and we talked about this on one of our mailbag episodes.
And you shot it down.
And I did shoot it down. Bruce Bochy was suggested, and I shot it down because of his age, but I'd like to talk through some specifics that actually probably makes him a more logical candidate.
Make this right, Mike.
This is my confession and repentance moment. All right. So he managed the Padres, we all know, from 95 to 06. And Padres did have a couple of really good years under Bochy. They made it to the World Series in 98 and then got swept by that Yankee conglomerate in New York.
Who could beat those Yankees, man?
Oh, man. And then he went to manage the San Francisco Giants from 07 to 2019. And when he was managing the Giants, they decided to win, I think, was it every other year?
Every even year for a while.
Yeah. And he had great players like Buster Posey on that team. Now, his overall managerial record is below 500, but I don't think that that's going to matter to the Angels if they consider him because he has experience, right?
They're used to being under 500. It's fine.
Let's just get a guy that'll help us to continue to do what we do, right?
He can relate.
So, yeah, he's been managing for over 25 years in baseball, and so he's got a lot of really great experience. Here's why I've kind of moved in the direction of I'm intrigued by Bruce Bochy because of what we've seen Buck Showalter do in New York. Buck has got history, he's got experience, and Buck is a guy that you can't buck, right? He is a guy that has solid boundaries and solid direction. And I also like the Bruce Bochy idea because of Dusty Baker in Houston. Both of these guys have a lot of integrity. They've built a lot of trust, and they have a lot of experience that shows that they know how to win and win big. For Bochy, I mean, he's got 3 World Series rings and he's brought 4 teams to the World Series. And so I think that maybe there's a potential of if you bring Bochy in, we could have the Buck Showalter effect on our team, and this team maybe straightens up and straightens out in 2023. John, of those 3 names, who is your favorite of Espada, Weiss, and Bochy? Who would you like to see if it was between those 3 guys?
I think, man, you make a really compelling argument for all 3, honestly, at the end of the day, and especially with the youth on the side of Weiss and Espada, but then the experience factor of Bochy, that's also very tantalizing. There's a big part of me as a Halo fan that wants to see the team be a young team. And build around our veteran who is Mike Trout and have these young guys who are being studs. And of course, we want to bring in some guys to help supplant some of those pieces and be a shortstop and a couple starters. But at the end of the day, I think I really like the youth side of things. But I think in that regard, I think I like Walt Weiss. I like that he comes from the Braves. I like that he's part of that World Series team. I like that he has managerial experience. So give him a team that he can work with and maybe even know how to handle some of the ownership stuff going on with the Angels. And maybe he won't be interfered with as much in Anaheim, perhaps as he was in Colorado. So I think Weiss is my choice. And we're interested to hear what you guys have to say. So please let us know on Twitter, Instagram, or in the YouTube comments who you think of those three would be the best option. Of course, we'll open up the discussion later to some alternative options that aren't from other organizations.
Well, coming up on Locked On Angels, we're going to tell you who we're watching this weekend and why we're watching them. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by our new friends and our new sponsor, our friends at the Liver Health Formula organization. Did you know that the key to sustainable weight loss is through your liver? And right now, you can rejuvenate your liver health and reignite your metabolism thanks to Liver Health Formula by Pure Health Research. Liver Health Formula contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrients that work together to wake up a sluggish liver. No more bloated belly, no more uncomfortable digestion, and no more feeling tired and low energy all of the time. I know I got everybody's attention with those 3 bullet points. Best of all, Liver Health Formula makes it easier to maintain a healthy body weight long term. And as a listener of Locked On Angels, you can try Liver Health Formula risk-free today. And you can also get a free bottle of Curb Fit. Curb Fit is a safe and natural appetite suppressant. It makes it easy to say no to those unhealthy foods. So go to getliverhelp.com/MLB to learn more. Again, that website is getliverhelp.com/MLB. And you can try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free, and you can claim a free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Again, the website is getliverhelp.com/MLB. Get started and go there today.
Hey, we want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now we want to get into the discussion. What about the hitting and pitching coach? You and I have had conversations this week about Jeremy Reed and Matt Wise and whether they're going to stick around. I think that you could make an argument for Matt Wise to stick around.
Yeah.
The pitch tipping thing is a sticking point for me. Remember, that was a big problem earlier this summer.
Right.
And of course, with Jeremy Reed, I just don't think that he is long for this organization. And we wish him the best of luck. But until they make a change, until they make a change, we want to think about who could actually step up into both of those roles should they make a change at both positions. So let me start with the hitting coach.
Okay.
And I want to make the suggestion of the Trash Pandas hitting coach, Kenny Hook. What a name, right?
Yeah.
Kenny Hook.
Yeah.
He is in Double-A, of course, with the Trash Pandas. In 2021, the Pandas offense launched a Double-A South best 152 home runs, Mike, with 6 players reaching double digits. Can you imagine that on this Halo team? Getting these Halos to be able to hit double-digit home runs across 6 players. We've seen it with Trout and Shohei and Jared Walsh. Can you imagine if you had 3 more guys hitting double-digit home runs? 152, the best in Double-A South. That, to me, screams, get that guy up immediately. Kenny Hook from the Trash Pandas. Now, listen, I know that we've had this conversation about pitching coach and Buddy Carlisle as an option, considering how he was able to fix Reed Detmers and help him get better, but you have a different suggestion for pitching coach. Tell me about that.
Buddy is in AAA, but Michael Wirtz is in Double-A, and this is somebody early on in our Locked On Angels career that you suggested would perhaps be a good move to bring him up to the big club because he has done an incredible job with these young guys and on the Trash Pandas. Last year, this staff finished second with 1,112 strikeouts.
Wow.
And under the direction of Michael Wirtz, 10 former Trash Pandas, they climbed up the ladder and made their MLB debut for the Angels last year. This isn't even counting this year, but just last year. And now he's got a plethora of incredible athletes that are pitchers right now that we will probably see sooner rather than later. And so, Johnny, here's the question. why do you think that these options, these in-house options, are actually better for our Halos in 2023?
I think that these guys are so familiar with the players, especially those in AA, who seem to be the best minor league team that we have. And there's a reason why they are kind of compiling them all in AA with the Trash Pandas, because I think they want uniformity, they want cohesion, and they want culture, like you mentioned earlier this week. And so for a hitting coach to be there when you get there, how great would it be for some of these guys to come up and see somebody that they're familiar with in the big league club and who understands them and knows them well. So I think having somebody who knows the players well at the big league level, where a lot of these guys are destined to go and be part of the big league team, I think that would be a great thing. What else?
I think that they are known by the players. I think that that's really important. Like, you have a comfortability and you're confident in going to them and saying, hey, what's wrong here? And knowing that they're going to actually bring a solution, right? Because that solution is going to make you a more effective player, which I think brings us to our third point. These minor league coaches have shown the ability to correct and adjust players mid-season. We've talked about 100%. Buddy Carlisle, but these two guys in AA have helped guys like Chase Silseth actually correct some things and come back up and make a start. And so I think that there's a lot of known factors. We can talk with these guys. The thing that you and I've discussed on this pod before is when Brandon Marsh shows up in Philadelphia, his first question is, hey, what's wrong? And we're not sure if that question was asked when he was here. I think that there has to be this relational aspect. Relational equity is what I like to call it, where you know that you can go to a coach and say, man, this isn't working. And the coach already knows it's not working. And he has been working behind the scenes to try to find solutions for you. And these guys are going to know those young players who are going to be in the major leagues next year or the year after. So why not have those guys in the major leagues so that there's some continuity from AA all the way up to the big ball club?
Now, we made this point earlier this week. Does that put any danger in the fact that these guys are so good at developing the young talent once they're out of that situation? Is there a risk involved? Do you think that it's risky to bring these guys up to the major league club?
I think that what this does is give Perry Manassian the, again, ability to build this team in his image, and maybe can go and get two guys that he can slot in for the AA Trash Pandas, because those guys were there before Perry got there. And so now he can go and get guys that he wants so that he can be confident in their ability to develop. And then Wirtz and Hook have shown the ability to help other guys figure it out. So I think that this initially as a fan looks like a win-win to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a smart move, and bringing guys up who know the club well, know the players well, know the teams well, would do very well with the Halos at the major league level.
Well, Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs, and you can find all your favorite sports events and sports scores on the #1 online source for all odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news of every league: baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, even golf. BetOnline continues to be a top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to scores to podcasts. They have you covered front to back. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at BlueNile.com. Mike, you know that I got married 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now, and you were the officiant in the wedding, so great job there. And if I had known about BlueNile.com, I would have totally taken them up on their offer to help somebody find the perfect engagement ring, classic time jewelry pieces, and prices that you won't find at a traditional jeweler. I was a lost sheep, but Blue Nile would have found me if I had known about them. So that's why we're telling Locked On Angels listeners about Blue Nile. So if you're looking for fine jewelry but have trouble choosing, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. They're available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. They have simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, the diamond size and the clarity, as well as the setting style, all things I didn't know before I had to go buy a ring. So again, Blue Nile is there for you. Their bench jewelers will handcraft her perfect engagement ring, and each ring is one of a kind. And if it's not perfect, no problem. They have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. So if you screw it up, don't worry, you can do it again with BlueNile.com. So you can make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on right now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. You can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, it ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that's not going to give away what's inside, so you can shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today.
John, there are two players that you and I are going to be watching this weekend as the Angels play the Twins. They start tonight at 6:38 at home. This is a really interesting series because the Twins are leading the AL Central, and if they were not in the AL Central, they would be actually behind in the wild card, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I think that what we have decided as Angel fans, you and I specifically, is because our team has struggled, we want to focus on some wins. We want to focus on some things that can help us to cheer for them as they're trying to navigate this season. And so the players that we are going to be watching this weekend are players that we want to see improve. We want to see do well. We want to see get excited. And so, Johnny, I'm going to start. And the player that I'm watching this weekend is our friend, our boy, Joe Adell. I've been hard on Joe. I've also celebrated Joe. And the reason why I'm watching Joe Adell this weekend is twofold. One, I want to watch Joe Adell's focus. You mentioned something this week that was pointed out on Twitter this week, that Joe, when he doesn't think, when he's just got to react or respond, he's actually really great at the plate, and he's actually really great in the field.
Right.
And so I want to see that Joe all the way around, not just highlights, not just in moments. I want to see Joe be top-notch terrific in every moment. I want to see his focus on the base path. I want to see his focus at the plate, and I want to see his focus in the outfield, because I am a huge Joe Adell fan, and I think that we have a secret. We have a diamond in the rough in Joe Adell, and I would love to see him bust out in the next month or two. And so I'm watching Joe for that reason, but I'm also watching Joe because I want to see how Phil Nevin manages him. I noticed that Phil's been pulling him in the 6th or the 7th inning from the outfield and bringing in a replacement. And I don't like that, and here's why. We are not in competition for anything right now. Maybe Phil thinks that we're going to get back to 500 and actually try to sneak in that third wild card spot. I have been an Angel fan for a long time, and so I can confidently say that that is not going to happen because of the history of the Angels, right? And so I don't understand why you're polling him. I think that he needs all the innings and all the reps that he can get, and I think he needs to be able to be out there, and you need to communicate confidence in Joe Adell in the same way that you communicated confidence to Jose Suarez when you've kept him in the game twice. And so I'm going to be watching Joe this weekend. One, because I want to make sure that he is staying focused. And two, I want to see how Phil Nevin is managing him. And I hope Phil gives him a longer leash and a little bit more freedom, because I think that that's when we're going to see prime Joe Adell.
I've got two responses for you for that.
Okay.
Number one is at AAA pitcher, AAA pitcher on Twitter, one of my favorite follows. He said, Joe Adell since the trade deadline, 280 batting average, 3 extra base hits, and a 131, my favorite stat, weighted runs created plus.
It's good.
Pretty good numbers since the trade deadline. So good for him. Now, the other thing I want to bring up is they brought in they took out Joe Adell in the 6th inning when we were up 3-0 against the A's on Wednesday. What happened? We gave up the lead, and then you had to rely on Steven Duggar, who replaced Joe Adell and his bat. No offense to Duggar, but if you want to get more offense, you're going to get that out of Joe Adell. And so that was a way too quick of a leash. I could understand the 8th or even the bottom of the 9th if you want to do a defensive replacement, but the 6th inning with a 3-run lead with this team, and you're the one putting Jesse Chavez in there to hold the lead like that. I mean, come on, man. I don't know. So Those are my two things, and I just think that Joe Adell does deserve the reps, as you mentioned. Mike, I'm going to focus on somebody who I have liked for a very long time, even when you didn't, and that is my boy Sandy, Patrick Sandoval.
You always got to throw the low blow. You always got to try to keep the gloves up, please.
When I saw him in 2020 and he, came up for the very first time, I was excited because he reminded me of kind of a hard throwing Hector Santiago, right? And when Hector Santiago was a kind of a stud for a while, and I think Patrick Sandoval has the potential to be even better than Santiago, but I have my eye on him because do you remember what happened the last time he faced the Twins?
No, I don't. What?
July 24th, 2021 was the near no-hitter in Minnesota where Patrick Sandoval went 8 2/3 innings.
That's right.
And then eventually gave up the hit and an earned run, but he had a near no-hitter last season against the Twins. Now I understand this Twins team is a very different team, especially with like Carlos Correa on it and Byron Buxton actually playing, but I want to see him get some length in his starts. His last 4 starts, let me tell you, he went 5 1/3 on 105 pitches. Before that, 5 2/3 on 92 pitches. He went 3 innings against the Braves. That was kind of a disaster start, and that was 80 pitches. And then before the Braves start, he went 4 2/3 on 102 pitches.
Wow.
Mike, I want to see him get to 7 innings. I'll even take 6 full innings. I want to see him at least get to the 7th. Completing 7 innings would be fantastic. If he can complete 6, that would be great as well. But he's got to pitch more efficiently, and I want to see him do that. And I'm excited to see what happens in his return against the Twins, the first time they've met since that near no-hitter. I think I was having sushi that night, and I raced home with my wife to go see the rest of this game. I was like, there's got a no-hitter going on. And I was totally silent. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tweet on Super Halo Bros. I didn't do any of that. But that didn't work out at the end of the day. But I didn't want to jinx it. Somebody else must have jinxed it because they didn't make it. So, again, I want to see him go at least 7 innings. And I'm interested to see what happens facing the Twins again after that near no-hitter. And pitch efficiently, Patrick. You've got to pitch efficiently. Trust your defense behind you. Trust that you can get the ground ball. Don't be afraid to throw in the zone. Don't be too fine. Don't nibble. And you don't have to strike out everyone. You can strike out people, but you don't have to do that every single time. Those are my thoughts on Patrick Sandoval, and I'm excited to see what he can do tonight against the Twins.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and his unique perspective on every team and shares some of the biggest stories from around the league. You can follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts.
Hey, you're going to want to give us a follow this weekend at Locked On Angels on Twitter or at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Or you could message us on either handle because it is Mailbag Monday. It's just another Mailbag Monday. Mike, here's the voicemail number, right? We have a Mailbag Monday coming up, right?
We do, and we're excited about that. One of our favorite episodes. And so you can tweet at us, you can send us a direct message, or you can comment below this video on YouTube and give us a call anytime, but especially this weekend. We'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your voice. 714-409-6396. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to. Remember that Blue's Clues? You can tell I'm a dad. All right. So yeah, Mailbag Monday is coming up on Locked On Angels, and we would love to hear from you.
And of course, that phone number is in the episode description. In case you missed it, it's on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. In the meantime, we want you all to have a great weekend. Let's get a win tonight, Halos. And until Monday, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right back here on Monday. Have yourselves a great weekend, and we look forward to talking with you on Monday.